I'm so glad that half of the shit I have on my computer. Anyway, Twitch, restream, chat, done. Okay. So hello again. Yeah, not too much. Just man, I wanted to get some stuff done yesterday, but then basically a fuse blew, so I had to get shit done, and I couldn't really get stuff done because essentially a fuse had blown. Otherwise, I'd be running everything from one side of my house and another fuse. But yeah, so a couple of takeaways are, one, if you ever do something like this, always check it after about 5 to 10 minutes and listen to see if you can hear anything. You're like, usually a quick click is about normal because that's like it frying off any residual oil or whatever that's left in it. But if you hear like a humming or a buzzing sound or like say anything at all, immediately stop, pull it after you've disconnected the power and remove it, because then you know that you've done it wrong. The next thing is also never trust the fuse blocks that are actually in there, because between like 60s and 70s and now they could have rewired the house and installed new types of wire and stuff in it. They could have downgraded it, they could have run it to a different circuit, there could be like a neutral going to ground somewhere out in the street, and there's some house down the road that's got rogue voltage that's flying into the line and feeding back through. Never, ever fuck with a circuit panel unless you check it with a multimeter first, and you know how to check it with a multimeter. So pulling a fuse, that's fine. Turn off the power, pull a fuse. That's fine. If the fuse is cracked, don't touch it, because you could potentially get zapped by current that's coming back the other way. If you're forming a circuit, like fuses will basically be on the positive. But what if there's an electrical fault and there's power coming back through the negative? You don't know. You could just form it. You could have just formed a ground, and you could just have been zapped with your neighbor's 430 volts AC that, when they tried to do a bodgy garage job on their welder, malfunctioned. You never know. So if you don't know what you're doing, don't do anything. But rewiring a fuse, one of the old fuses, it's a skill. You know, it's something that everyone should know. And I hope you learned something today. And why isn't my chat transparent? It should be. And my cat is meowing because he wants food. Feed me. It's supposed to be transparent. What's going on with that? That's new. That should be transparent. Background opacity. 10%. Message opacity. 20. I don't know. I've since lost all chance of like all reasoning of trying to track these things. That should be transparent. That's only a recent change. Maybe it's only in stream that it's transparent now, I guess. That's all I can think. Anyway, I'll finish this beer and run back down, and the next essential test is now that there's some power running through it, and there's been some power running through it for a while. Nothing like 2000 BTUs of aircon compressor kicking in. Also my computer running off it, and my fridge. next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run back downstairs and check to see whether or not it's heated up much. Because if it has, one of the reasons why someone might have replaced the fuse wire in it with copper is because there's a short somewhere in the building, there's an electrical current leaking. And that is a possibility as well. And you'll be able to detect that because now that I've installed the right fuse wire in it, it should not be getting hot at all. It should maybe just like a little bit warm, but it shouldn't be getting hot. So on to the next point of discussion. Don't trust what it says on the blocks, because they could have reused a block. When it comes to these types of fuses in Australian houses and many other places around the world, you can't buy them anymore. So electricians will reuse blocks. They're not guaranteed to reuse a block that says 15 amps on it, or 30 amps on it, or 8 amps on it, or whatever it's supposed to be, or 25. They could have grabbed a 30 amp one, wired it up with 15 for a power circuit, plugged it in, and you go back to that fuse, and that fuse is popped, and you need to replace the wire. It says 30 amps on it, so you get some 30 amp fuse wire, and you wire it up, and then the house catches on fire. You got to know what the circuit is. So in this case, it's two 15 amp circuits, two power circuits. But I know that because I've had a look, and I know what I'm actually looking at. Hey Fuki! Where the hell did I put my vape? Ree, tell me where I put my vape! Just kidding. There's another point that I'll get into as well, and it's that there is one more. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's pretty important too. So I need nicotine. Back in a sec. I'm gonna go check that fuse. I reckon I left the vape downstairs. I don't know, Dr. Fuki, but I'll discuss that in a minute, I suppose, after I figure out what the other thing I was trying to say was. So it was, fuse block replaced, you can't trust what it says on the fuse blocks, you have to check the cabling and the wiring to know exactly what they're supposed to do. And I'm sure there's something else. There's something else that I'm forgetting. It's like common sense to me, because I know electrical, but no, that's it. If there's more, I'll post it in the comments. I'll post it in chat, like as an add-on link. Again, don't try to do any of this stuff unless you know what you're doing, because potentially you can burn your house down. If you get a fuse block and you put the wrong fuse wire in it, and you try to run more current through your cabling and what your cabling can handle, you will burn your house down. Oh yeah, when you're changing fuse blocks, if you're changing the power, so like when you're switching the power on, don't look at the fuse block, right? Just look away, because if there is a short circuit, and the reason you're replacing a ceramic fuse block is because it's short-circuited and it's burnt it out, that fuse might just possibly explode. And when it does, it looks like an arc welder, and you can blind yourself. The next thing would be, when in doubt, don't do anything. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. But that said, if everything is clearly well labeled, and you know that this is that and that is that, just get an electrician, right? You don't need to replace your whole circuit panels. Like, you don't need to get them out and replace it with a whole full RCD system or whatever. You know, just get out an electrician and say, could you please label what is what, please? And when you move out, if you've made a modification to the electrical services on your property, if you're renting or you own the property, please write it down somewhere and put it with the fucking panel. Because from my own experience, I've known far too many people who've been shocked electrically. I have been personally. I don't trust anything. There could be electrical sources coming from anywhere. So when it comes to like working with a fuse block or something like that, like cleaning it, fine. But when it comes to something that's potentially attached to a live service, your life is more important. Contact your real estate agent. You know? That's basically it. As for that stuff, Dr. Fuki, we'll talk about that in chat, I suppose, rather than on a stream. I got advice there as well. Right. Have a good one. God knows I've been missing for a couple of days. But that's because